Welcome to Fun in Key West, where every day feels like a mini fest. Grab a drink, take it slow. We'll show you where the locals go. Food, fun, and stories to tell. Hidden gems you know so well. Your Key West experts here to say it's fun in Key West every day.
Welcome, everybody, to 2026. Can you believe it? This is our first episode of Historic Marker Monday. I am Michelle with Fun in Key West, and I am so glad that you are here. If you're here, please let me know so I can do a shout out and say, hey, I want to be able to welcome you all to our first episode of 2026. Today, we are diving into something that I bet you've walked by multiple times and didn't realize the historical significance of, and that would be the Key West Aquarium. So, there is a lot more to the story about the aquarium than just creating a place for you to experience what's happening in the waters around Key West and the Florida Keys. But if you are thinking about it and you are at Mallory Square, you're going to take a detour over there, come off of Mallory Square, come over where the Shipwreck Museum is, and you're going to be able to see the Key West Aquarium. So let's dive into the history about this place. It's actually one of the most important buildings in Key West history for tourism, I think. It isn't just a place to see sharks or sea turtles. This is where Key West officially said, okay, maybe tourism is our future. And spoiler alert, it did not get there easy. So let's rewind. So let's set the pace, or set the scene. We're going to rewind to the early 1930s. Key West was broke. Like, hand the keys over to the federal government broke. The cigar industry had collapsed. Sponging was fading. Fresh water was scarce in the Keys and Key West, and jobs were literally disappearing. So desperate times called for desperate measures, big ideas, depends on which side of history you want to sit on. And that's when the federal government stepped in, and through President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you had the Works Progress Administration, better known as the WPA. And their mission? Well, their mission was to save Key West. And one of the boldest ideas that they backed was something no one had ever done before. So in steps, interstage right, if you want to look at it from that perspective, is Dr. Robert Van Dubuisson. So he's the superintendent of the Fairmount Park Aquarium in Philadelphia and a real frequent visitor to Key West. So he understood Key West. He understood what it looked like, what he was working with, all of that. And he looked around Key West and said, this place is surrounded by amazing crystal clear water. And he thought to himself, why are they not showing it off? And his idea was revolutionary for the time: an open air aquarium and garden. Think about it, an open air aquarium built right in Key West using local marine life, and not only as a tourist attraction to attract all those tourists in, but as a research center and a clearinghouse for subtropical sea creatures. The aquarium wouldn't just entertain visitors, it would sell Key West. So construction began in 1932, and they used a mix of concrete using the seawater around Key West because, as I mentioned earlier, fresh water was not really available during that time, and it was very limited. So they used the seawater and mixed it into the concrete to make the part of the construction. That alone tells you how resourceful the people of Key West were and still are. So by the time the aquarium opened, February 17th, 1935, it was officially the first open-air aquarium in the United States. It was the first and largest aquarium of its kind in Florida, and most importantly, it was the first true tourist attraction in Key West. Admission back then in 1935 was 15 cents for an adult and 5 cents for kids. So Key West was ready for its tourism comeback. Well, what happened 7 months later? The Labor Day hurricane in 1935 hits Key West. And it's one of the strongest hurricanes ever to hit the U.S. It destroyed the overseas highway, destroyed the overseas railroad, and which was at that time the only land route to Key West. So, no railroad, that meant no tourists. And without tourists, the aquarium's grand plan collapsed almost overnight. From 1935 to 1947, the U.S. government stripped out all the exhibits, filled the tanks, and repurposed the aquarium building as a military gun range. And they used it up through World War II. And only in Key West, right? But there was a second life after World War II to this building. It was returned back to the city, and slowly the city began to bring it back to life as an aquarium. In the 1960s, a roof was added. So if you go to the aquarium today, it's sort of open, but there is a roof. And the reason why the roof was added, it helped control the algae that was starting to grow in those tanks because it's open air. And the lighting was improved, and the building began to evolve again. And by the late 1970s, the building was beginning to show its age, and it closed for a major restoration. Two Key West businessmen, Chris Belland and Ed Swift III, took on the challenge of rebuilding and expanding it from basically ground up. In 1982, the modern aquarium was then born. It reopened, not just as a tourism, but it was the backbone of the Keys economy. So a lot of the new features that in the 1982 version it had was an enhanced educational signage. So as you go through it, you're gonna learn a lot more about the waters around Key West and what you will find in those waters. You had upgraded animal habitats and the crown jewel, which is the Atlantic Shores exhibit. This is a massive 50,000-gallon exhibit, recreated a mangrove shoreline, and this then gave space to having sharks and sea turtles and tarpon and grouper and tropical fish and other large game fish. It's immersive, it's educational, and it finally fulfilled Dr. Van de Hoosen's original vision. Fast forward to October of 2005, you guessed it, another hurricane hits, and this is Hurricane Wilma. It hits Key West. The aquarium survives, but the rising water breached the shark tanks that face the Gulf of Mexico, and yes, some of the sharks escaped into the wild, which probably is one of the most Key West sentences I've ever said, right? But today, what do you see when you go to the aquarium? You're going to be able to see both the historic sections and there's nods back to the original structure, but you're also going to have some hands-on exhibits. You're going to be able to experience over 250 marine animals. You're going to be able to see sharks and stingrays and jellyfish and tropical fish and 4 of the 5 sea turtle species native to Florida. There's touch tanks so that you can explore sea stars and sea urchins and horseshoe crabs and, yes, the iconic queen conch. They also have live animal feedings and guided talks about sharks and turtles and conservation and educational programs that connect you to the Florida reef ecosystem. Two of the sea turtles that have been at the aquarium have prosthetic flippers, and so they are powerful ambassadors for marine conservation. So fast forward, to 2023, there was another upgrade done to the aquarium. So if you haven't been by the aquarium lately, be sure to check it out. There's a new entry, and in that entryway, it features glass doors that are printed with a historic 1937 photograph. There's wooden gates modeled after the original entrance and bifold windows and a fountain that brings you back to the present, brings the past to the present. So this is a reminder about the connection between the people, the sea, and the history. So why does the aquarium matter? And you're like, Michelle, why does this even matter? I think the aquarium represents a turning point. It's where Key West shifted from exporting goods to actually importing visitors. It's from survival to storytelling. It's from isolation to sparking curiosity. For what, 90 years or more, it's introduced generations of locals and visitors to the waters that defined the Key West as well as the Florida Keys, and it helped protect the future. So the next time you're wandering around Mallory Square, head over to this historic marker. Believe it or not, the Key West Aquarium is a historic marker for the reasons we talked about. It was the first tourist attraction in Key West. It was built specifically to draw in tourists off of Flagler's Railroad. Unfortunately, that only lasted 7 months, and the hurricane of Labor Day 1935 destroyed that overseas railroad and stopped all of that tourism. But it still survived, and today you can wander through it and experience a aquarium that's a little different than probably some of the others that you're going to experience when you go to Disney or up into Tampa and over into Fort Lauderdale. These are going to be a little bit different. But I think it's a way to bridge the present and the past and really make an honor the past of Key West and welcome the new visitors to Key West. Let me know in the comments, have you been to the Key West Aquarium? Have you been there since the new update in 2023? It goes through, like a lot of things, a lot of evolution. But this is what we do on Mondays. We talk about those historic markers. I see a lot of people wandering through Key West, and they don't realize whenever I'm stopping to take pictures of these historic markers and what's behind those markers, what's actually happening. I talk about this in a past episode, had somebody stop me in Truman Annex and say, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm taking a picture of historic markers." And they went, "Oh, okay." And they came back and said, "Now what?" They had walked by them multiple times and didn't even realize what they were. So take a moment as you're wandering through Key West, and if you see one of those historical markers, take a moment to check it out, see what's happening. You can always learn more about this self-guided tour over at FunInKeyWest.com. Check out under what to do, and you can see the historical walking tour. And just to explore all those stops along the way. There's over 100. I think there's 120 that are still in Key West that you can check out. I am Michelle with Fun in Key West. I encourage you to head over not only to check out the historic walking tour, but check out our website and check out everything that we've got going on over there. Sign up for our newsletter that gets you a copy of our happy hour list and also gets you onto our weekly newsletter that lets you take a chance on a trivia question to go into a drawing. We draw a Key West surprise box every month. And the only way you can enter is to be signed up and send back a response on the trivia question, a correct answer. So I am Michelle, like I said. Thank you so much for joining me on our first episode of Historic Marker Monday for 2026. We have a lot of exciting things that we have planned for this year, and I am so glad that you are here. You are part of our community, and that you check in and listen or watch every time we release new content. You guys have a great one. Thank you so much for joining. We'll talk to you later. Bye.